Hi everyone, I'm so glad you joined us for today's session. Last week, I shared some strategies for managing symptoms related to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And today, I'm going to continue that conversation by sharing some mindfulness exercises that can also be utilized to help manage some of those common behavioral characteristics of ADHD. So, how can mindfulness help manage ADHD? You may remember from previous wellness sessions that mindfulness is about paying full attention to what you're doing right now in the here and now. That includes what's going on around you, your thoughts, the feelings inside your body, and also what you're doing. So if by practicing mindfulness, individuals learn to become aware of what they're thinking, feeling, and doing in the moment. Once an individual masters this awareness, then they have all the information they need to act. For instance, if they're aware of their thoughts, then they're easily able to become aware of whenever they're having those negative thought patterns or their brain is sending them negative messages about what's going on around them. So they're able to catch that thought, challenge it, and change it like we've talked about in previous sessions. Or if they're experiencing some negative feelings, they're able to easily become aware of that and practice one of their coping or calming strategies to make that change. So these are some things, these are some ways that mindfulness can help. For the first activity, I'm going to be talking about mindfulness vocabulary exercise. This is a great activity to orient kids and even teens into the terms commonly used in mindfulness exercises. So for this activity, I will give a term or vocabulary word associated with mindfulness and then define that term. And then the activity associated with it will be to draw or visualize yourself doing that action. So the first term is inhale, and that's taking breathing in through your nose. And the activity associated with that would be to draw or visualize yourself smelling a flower or a spoonful of your favorite food or maybe your favorite lotion or perfume. And then the next term shared would be exhale, and that's breathing out through your mouth or nose, but mostly in mindfulness exercises, you breathe out through your mouth. And same thing, you draw or visualize yourself doing that action. So that could be like blowing bubbles or blowing on a hot bowl of soup or oatmeal to cool it off. Okay, and the next term is notice. So the definition here would be like look, see, or discover something. So the activity, you would draw or visualize yourself, or you would look around the room or wherever you are, notice your surroundings, and then draw or visualize what you see. The next term is awareness. So that would be like realizing something. You could draw or visualize yourself becoming aware of how thirsty you are or how long your nails have gotten, just becoming aware of anything. The next term is paying attention. So that's just focusing your mind on something. And you could draw or visualize yourself paying attention in class. And then the last term I'm going to share is calm. And that's just feeling stress-free, at peace, or just relaxed. So draw or visualize yourself feeling at peace. So that's just a fun way to kind of orient yourself to the words commonly used in the mindfulness exercises. We posted several wellness videos where we talked about mindfulness and I shared exercises. So just keep these in mind if you want to go back and try some of those that we talked about in earlier sessions. This next activity is paying attention mindfully. So for this activity, You'll need to identify times or situations when you have the most trouble paying attention. And then, once you've come up with those situations, write them down. Out next to each situation, you'll write what you need, what's the most important thing to pay attention to in that situation. So, for example, you may have written down that the times that are hardest for you to pay attention is when the teacher's lecturing, or you may have written down when it's time to actually do your classwork or playing sports. So you would write those down, and out next to teacher lecturing, the most important thing you might need to pay attention to during that time would be the words that the teacher is saying, like what the teacher is saying. The second one was classwork. So in this instance, the most important thing you would say would be to answer all of the questions on the worksheet. Playing sports, the most important thing may be keeping your eye on the ball. So once you've identified the most important thing for each of those situations where you have the most trouble paying attention, then you want to draw or visualize yourself in that situation, paying attention to the most important thing. So this activity is great for helping you become aware of the areas where you struggle the most. And by practicing this, you will remember the next time that you're in that situation what you need to be paying the most attention to. The next activity is following rules mindfully. And the strategy here involves making a list of rules for different situations and keeping them somewhere you can see them. So for instance, at home, an individual would need a list of the rules and expected behaviors, what's expected of them at home. Maybe they could keep that list on their bedroom door that they could reference until they really get all those rules down pat. And students here at school, as you know, with PBIS in all of our buildings, our expectations are posted for, regardless of where you are in the building, there's expectations for how to act or what's expected of your behavior in the hallways, in the lunchrooms, in the classrooms, and even the bathrooms. So you can always reference those whenever you're unsure of what's expected of you in certain situations at school. So once you're aware of these rules and expectations in different situations, and you have your list somewhere where you know where to find it and reference it if needed, you're encouraged to just stop and think before you say or do anything, and be mindful of whether or not what you're about to do or say meets the expectations that are required in that situation and follows the rules. This activity is remembering things mindfully. You'll need to again make a list of the things that you need to remember in each situation. And then some individuals even like to color code their list so it's easily able to identify the things that they have on there or they need to get. And then stop and think before you leave the situation or area or room to remember if you have everything that's on your list. You may even want to do a quick scan before you leave the room or area or situation to make sure you don't see anything that you might need before you leave. So for example, let's just say you have a list of things you need to remember before you go to school every morning. You might keep this list in your study or homework area that you've designated. And the list may include things like book bag, homework, lunchbox, gym bag, snack money. And you reference that list, do a quick scan of the room to make sure you have everything. If you've forgotten anything when you do your quick scan or when you stop and think about what all you need to remember, you'll have time to grab it real quick, put it in your book bag, and then head out the door. And you can use those same steps in different situations. That's all the time we have for today. So in next week's session, I'll finish up the mindfulness exercises that can be used to help manage the symptoms and behaviors related to ADHD. Thank you for joining today's session, and I hope you'll stay tuned for our upcoming sessions.